Alrighty, folks, we're going to hit two topics with the one and only Mr. Jason Hartman. The first one is going to be, what would he recommend a family or friend on how to get rich in
An egg bite.
2026?
I'd recommend an egg bite.
There you go. Egg bite from Starbucks, not sponsored. So again, how to get rich in 2026. And then we're going to kind of peel away and talk about, why do we think the Trump administration is so focused on housing? But first, Jason, thank you for doing this. I know you're a busy guy, but hey, you got a family, a friend over for the holidays, and they say, Jason, I know you're rich. I know how you've done it. How do I get started? How do I get rich in 2026? What are some of the things you might say?
Well, I would first say, Michael, that you probably don't get rich in 2026 if you're not rich already, right? Because it doesn't happen that quick. I mean, unless you win the lottery or have some, just
Luke.
fortuitous for an inheritance, mostly, like you say, it's blocking and tackling, right? It's just the basics. Just show up. And by the way, we've all heard that. I think it was Woody Allen. We've all heard that quote, 80% of success is just showing up, right? We've all heard that quote. It's used a lot. That is so true. Like, you don't even have to be good at whatever you do. Just be there, right? Just be there, show up, say please and thank you, be ethical. Like, that'll do a lot right there,
Yeah, I love how you answered that in the beginning, because I don't think a lot of people would have, but you did, and that's awesome. And just by stating, hey, family member, you're not going to get rich in a year. Let's just level set those expectations.
Yeah.
Because again, a lot of social media is get rich quick. It is the easy button. It is overnight success. It is highlight reels.
That's a myth. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't build long-term wealth overnight, and you don't do it in a year, right? I tell people getting wealthy takes at least a decade. Sure, it could be shorter, but it takes more than a year.
Not to be Mr. Cliche today, but here's another cliche. We've heard it too, right? Most people overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in 5 years, right? And so that is certainly true, because in 5 years in real estate, you're probably going to hit a really good cycle. Maybe it'll take 7, but you'd be amazed at what you can do by just buying some properties. And it's amazing too, Michael, how many people just overcomplicate this whole thing. They've got research reports, they've got this and that, and they're looking at all these deals, and they're looking at all these investments that are so financialized and so complex and just so complicated, right? That the person making the money is the promoter of the deal, not the investors, right? Nobody ever got rich investing in a syndication.
Yeah.
Okay, like it's
Except
never
the syndicator.
happened.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, the syndicator did. Yeah, and usually they didn't invest anything in the deal.
True.
So
it's wild.
So
wild.
Just buy some fucking houses. Okay, get 6 of them. Get a 6-pack. Right.
Yeah.
That's the good kind of 6-pack, and you'll be amazed. You just wait a few years after doing that. We have a client that started investing with us in his 20s, early 20s. Right. His name's Mason. Yeah. Great guy, and he sent me a message the other day through Instagram saying that he was so thankful that he started, because I put a chart out that said the average age of a first-time buyer now is like 40.
Right.
And he's got several properties already that he acquired in his 20s, and now I think he's about 30 now, right?
Wow.
So he's just way ahead of the game,
Yeah. When I sit down with family and friends these days, and I get asked this question a fair amount, which is good. I mean, I enjoy answering it, but it's funny how it's always almost the same, right? The first thing I challenge people with is, show me where your money's going today. And I got to tell you, Jason, it is shocking how many people have no idea where their money goes.
Yeah, well, it's going to a lot of stupid, like, subscription channels for their cable. They're paying for the Paramount Plus, the Disney, all that crap. Such a waste of money.
Yeah, and again, the reason that's important is, if you don't know where your money's going, I can't help you.
Yeah.
Right. And I have this thing just called Get Your Money Right. And it's basically just audit your expenses. Right. First off, get a list, which is shocking. Most people don't have. But then, Jason, I tell people to go through it and do a need versus want analysis.
Right. Yeah. Right? That's a good way to look. I love that, need versus want. Yeah.
Yeah, and want and oh, by the way, if you're in a relationship, do this together, right? Do it
Yeah.
individually and then compare, because when Olivia, my wife, and I did this, there were some things that I thought was a want and she thought was a need, and we had to
Mhm.
talk about those things,
Yeah.
and vice versa.
Yep.
But once you get on the same page, you can really understand that sacrificing your wants for a little while
Yeah.
is game changing. It's just that
Mhm.
simple.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
That kind of leads into another interesting point, is that in some points in various markets and in various geographies, there will be times when it's cheaper to buy a house than it is to rent a house. Okay,
Hmm.
that's not the case today in most places, right? It's more expensive to buy than to
Sure.
rent, but that does flip over time in various markets. And our investors are constantly asking us, when they're looking at different nationwide opportunities that we present to them for properties they can buy, they're asking us, well, why would this be a good deal? Because the tenants will just buy a house.
Hmm.
They're not gonna rent it from me. They'll just buy their own house. And I remind them that the reason they are tenants most of the time is due to financial immaturity, right?
Hmm.
They are basically not willing to delay gratification. And one of the primary things of financial maturity, of getting wealthy, is to the willingness to delay gratification. Now,
Absolutely. Yep.
I want to say one more thing about that, though. After a few years ago, I had a kind of a bad breakup with a gal, and caused me to rethink my life in a lot of ways. And
Mm,
one of the books I read, and one of the authors, I had him on the show too, is called 4,000 Weeks. Okay, it's the
mm.
name of the book, because that's the average human life, is 4,000 weeks.
Oh,
And
wow.
then
Okay.
another one, Die with Zero. A lot of people have heard of that one.
Yeah, I've heard
And,
that one.
both great, causing me to rethink stuff. Now, don't do this for too long, right? Because a lot of people, and I'll be the first to say I do it, right? Is, they get to a point where they are really wealthy and they're still delaying gratification because it's become a habit. Okay.
Right.
Don't be the richest guy in the graveyard. Okay.
Yeah.
But most people have the opposite problem. They're
Yeah. Yeah.
blowing
Die
all
with
their money.
Zero
Yeah.
is an amazing
Yeah.
book. I will check out 4,000
Yeah.
Weeks. I had not
Yeah.
actually heard of that one. So
Yeah.
thank you. I'm
And
always looking
there are
for more
several
books to
other
read.
good books in this genre that I've been reading a lot lately. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The reason I want people, again, I'm thinking family, friends, holiday season, tell me where your money is, need versus want, is because at the end of the day, getting rich to me is all about growing one number. It's not income. It's not even net income. It's discretionary income. Because at the end of the day, discretionary income becomes seeds that get planted. And then over time, those seeds grow into mighty oak trees. But we got to get people thinking about discretionary income, because I know
Yeah.
people that never made more than 50 grand that are now
Mhm.
financially free. And I know
Yeah.
people that make almost 5 million and couldn't write a check for 10 grand for afraid it's going to bounce.
I
It's
know
shocking.
those. I think we know the same people.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's I got to get people. I really try to get the people to think about discretionary income. And tell
Yeah.
me what you think of this. I created this story. So basically, what I tell parents to do, especially around the holidays, is I try to get them to calculate their discretionary income by hour. Right? It's not, hey, I make $50 an hour. It's not, hey, I net $40 an hour. It's, hey, I have $5 that is discretionary. So $5 an hour times eight's $40 a day, times five's $200 a week, times four is $800. What does that mean? That means all the other income is spoken for: rent, food, car, insurance, entertainment, whatever. So
Yeah.
again, you've got $5 an hour. Why is this important? Because when you're deciding on a discretionary Christmas present for
Hmm.
your kid that costs $1,000,
Hmm.
I don't want you to think $1,000, because most people think, hey, I make $50 an hour. It's $1,000. What is it? It's 20 hours. No big deal. It's not $20, or it's not 20 hours. It's 200 hours, because you only have discretionary income. All the under money is gone, right? You're living on five
Ooh,
bucks.
that's an interesting way to look at it. I think you need to create a visual aid for this, because that is
Okay.
really, really an interesting way to look at it. And Michael, one of the worst things is that people use another word for it. They don't call it discretionary income, they call it disposable income. and they just dispose of it.
But light it on fire. Hey,
Yeah,
I don't need it.
right.
Just burn it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. But the key is I have to get people thinking about discretionary income, because A, you need to know what that is, and B, you need to grow it. And the beauty about growing it, Jason, is there's only three things you could do. You can whack expenses, you can grow income, or do both.
Yep.
That's it. Do those.
Yeah. You need
Right.
to augment your means and diminish your wants at the same time.
And then do it for a decade, the delayed gratification, as you've talked about. And it gets really easy to get rich. Again, you won't get rich in 2026, but you will certainly start the momentum.
Yeah. Just get some properties and stop overthinking it, folks.
There you go. There you go. Well, talking about properties, let's switch to topic number 2. It certainly feels like since the elections that the Trump administration is very focused on housing. If they weren't in the beginning, we've seen talk of a 50-year mortgage, a portable mortgage, assumable mortgages. We've heard talk of a housing emergency for quite a while. Why do you think President Trump and his entire administration is so focused on housing?
Well, number one, because it's a huge part of the economy and it has such big ripple effects. The processional issue of housing is mind-boggling. I mean, you think about it. Think when someone buys a house, what do they also buy, and how does that stimulate the economy, right? When they buy the house, they're buying everything that's in that house, all the appliances, all the flooring, all the window coverings, all that stuff, right? Obviously. And then, the house from the builder itself. But then they're buying furniture, and they're planting roots, and it just has such a big processionary effect. Maybe they're remodeling after they buy it, right? And it just touches so many parts of the economy. So that's obviously number one. But number two, I was on stage speaking at a conference in, I believe it was in Austin, Texas, in about 2015 or 16 when Trump was running the first time. And I said to the audience, there were about 500 people in the audience, I said, look, you've got to understand when you think of the real estate market that this is literally our first real estate president, right?
True.
And, he's just focused on it, right? He's a builder. That's what he does. When I read his book, Art of the Deal, which, by the way, love him or hate him, it's a great book.
I've read it many times.
I reread it
20 years ago.
No, I know, me too. I read it a long time ago, but then I read it again maybe 2 years ago or something like that. And it's really good. It's quite a good book.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about New York is New York might be set up to go through that again.
Yeah.
In 4 to 6 years, you might be able to get the Commodore Hotel. If I remember the story correctly, the Commodore Hotel was the first one he picked up for pennies on the dollar.
Oh, but come on, they're going to set up a government-run bank and government grocery stores. Free everything.
We'll know how that works.
Utopia, it's coming soon.
Yeah, the other thing I think about, so first off, housing, real estate president, I think that's all valid. It's also, when I think about housing, I think housing's been in a recession or a depression since Jackson Hole in 2022, when Jerome Powell said, "Thou shalt be pain." I mean, look at transactions. I mean, combining existing and new home sales, we were over 7 million. We're at about 4.5 million now, maybe 4.6. I mean, that's quite a crash.
Yeah.
And
in terms of, but wait, make sure you distinguish that for people that don't follow us or listen to this all the time. You have to understand that is sales volume, not prices.
Never said price.
Confuse the two. Yeah. No, I know you didn't, but I just wanted people to make sure they caught it. Yeah.
Folks, we had a housing crash. It was in transactions, not price. I'm sorry, your doomer friends missed it.
Volume. Yeah.
Yeah. Your doomer friends missed it.
It was a volume crash, not a price crash.
Correct. But where I go with this is, I believe housing has been a subtractor or negative to GDP for at least 2 years, if not 2.5. And if this economy is going to act like it's, for the last 50 years, housing leads us in or out of a recession.
Yeah.
So one of the ways to pretty much guarantee we don't have a recession is to restart the housing engine. And I think that's why the administration is so focused. Also, it helps that, the affordability crisis, and if we could build smaller or more homes, it would help. But I think the administration realizes that if they don't turbocharge or reinvigorate housing, we're on a slippery slope. We got 23 out of 50 states in a recession. We're dangerously close to tipping that over.
Yeah. That's true, and let's also integrate that with the idea of the 50-year mortgage and maybe with lower rates that are on the way.
Sure.
Look, there's been just so much talk about the 50-year mortgage idea, right? And I'm very much in favor of it, only because I have a deep understanding of how this works through inflation-induced debt destruction. Most
Mhm.
people, they have this like cursory sixth grader understanding, right? They say, "Oh, you're going to pay more interest," but you don't. They never understand how you're really going to pay it back in cheaper dollars,
Right.
and lots of people. Well, not the majority, but people in my camp and your camp would
Mhm.
realize that it's not about paying down principal. That doesn't give you any tax deduction. Look, maybe think of it this way. We are all, I remember years ago, I was in church and the pastor was talking about how we are all just renting everything from birth to
Mm.
death. And we get so uptight about it. So serious about the whole thing. But you got to remember, at the end of the day, you're not taking any of it with you, right?
Right. Not
And,
taking it
and
with you.
so,
That's for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, if a 50-year mortgage can lower the payment by 15%, that is going to boost housing dramatically.
Oh,
And you,
yeah.
you
Right.
combine
Yeah.
that with a movement to eliminate property taxes, with rates going down, with just the general psychographics and demographics and the pent up demand from the sales that didn't happen over the last 3 years. I mean, I am quite bullish on housing. Now, all real estate is local. We always have to
Mhm.
keep that in mind. There are differences in not just geographies, but price categories, housing types. There are many
Yeah.
ways to segment that, but generally
Mhm.
speaking, bullish.
Well, I think there is no question that this administration has made it painfully clear that they are focused on housing, but even more painfully clear, in my opinion, they're focused on housing demand, right? They want to invigorate demand.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's fast and sexy.
Mhm.
More supply is not fast, and it's certainly not sexy,
But
right?
more supply is the real solution,
No,
just for the record. Yeah,
oh,
right.
there is no
Yeah,
question that
yeah,
that's the right answer. But
yeah,
given we live in a world where politicians run in 4-year cycles, we have
yeah,
midterm elections, all of that, it ain't happening, right?
yeah,
That's not going to be the big focus. It's going to be demand because they can,
yeah.
thump their chest and talk about this or that.
And
The one thing,
it's much easier to
oh, it's
play with the
easier.
demand
Of
side. They can
course.
juice that much more quickly. It's like drinking a coffee to wake up, right?
Yeah, it's instant.
The
It's
demand is
nearly instant.
caffeine. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good analogy. Demand is caffeine, where supply is you got to go plant the tree. It takes
That's
so
doing the
long
hard
to get
work.
to be. Yeah.
Maybe there's a good gym metaphor for this, right?
Okay.
You can cheat, you can do doping, you can take steroids, right? That'll get you there faster. But the hard work is actually just showing up and working out,
Yeah.
blocking and tackling, right?
Daily discipline, Jason.
Yeah,
We go back to
right.
daily discipline at the start and here at the end.
Yeah,
That's absolutely right. But at the end of the day, I think when you look at 2026 in housing, it certainly seems clear to me that lower rates are on the way. Some kind of housing focused, thing. I don't know, demand generation's coming. And it's going to be interesting for me to see where housing goes because obviously the doomers are once again talking about this impending crash, but I don't think they're really reading the tea leaves right again. They're just, I think they're stuck in their doom loop.
yeah, but they get bigger audiences and they get the clickbait.
Yeah, but at
So,
the end of the day, I'd rather be you or me than them
oh,
because
I agree. Agree
I'll stack.
completely.
I'll
Yeah.
pull out my wallet compared to theirs any day of the week.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. But at the end of the day, we've got family, we got friends, we got viewers that care about us, care about this market. And back to the beginning, Jason, if you got that friend at Thanksgiving or over the holidays, they're talking to you about getting rich in 26. What's the closing thought?
Just show up, do the right thing, do the hard work, do what other people are unwilling to do.
Hmm.
A great another cliche, Dennis Waitley, winners are willing to do the things that losers are not willing to do. He didn't
Yep.
say not able, he said not willing. So have the willpower to just do the hard work.
Yep. Folks, at the end of the day, my message to everyone out there is it all starts with hope or belief. You've got to believe it's possible. And the reason I believe doomers are evil, and yes, I use that word on purpose, evil, is because their sole goal is to crush hope. And that's not okay with me because at the end of the day, that's where it starts. If you don't have belief, you don't have hope, you have nothing.
Yep.
And that's not a good place to be.
Without hope,
Jason,
the people perish. Yeah.
there you go. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Happy investing.
Happy investing. Forgot it.